What are psychological triggers? Well, the best way to think of them is like a stimulus that produces some kind of reaction in a person. While there are countless triggers that we could talk about, for the sake of simplicity, I want to cover three of my favorites that I think are most helpful in the context of landing page optimization. Those three triggers are loss aversion, perceived value bias, and the foot in the door technique. Loss aversion is the theory that we fear loss considerably more than we desire gaining something. More specifically, this bias focuses on our tendency to do everything in our power to avoid loss, even more than what we do just to gain something new. You can use things like scarcity and urgency and remind people of what they will lose if they don't take you up on your offer. Just make sure that if you do use these elements, you do so authentically and honestly. A good example is the last slice of pizza. Ever been at a party and see a box of pizza with just one slice left? For some, it's more tempting to grab it than if the box was full. Moving on to the perceived value bias, this basically says that great design conveys higher value. It's the tendency to judge the value of a product or service based on how it is presented. A perfect example is perfume. The bottle and the package it comes in costs way more than what the actual liquid inside costs. It's all about the branding and the packaging and the marketing around the fragrance. That's where the value is, not in the actual product, but in how it is presented. You can use this principle on your landing pages in a number of ways. Most obvious is just making sure your page design looks professional. This will increase the perceived value instantly. If your landing page looks like it was designed by a high school student in Microsoft Paint, then you're going to have some issues. Lastly, we're going to talk about the foot in the door technique. This says that once we've performed a small action, we're more likely to continue performing additional actions. Salespeople use this all the time. Have you ever bought a new car? Did they let you sit in it first and maybe test drive it? Did they suggest you just fill out a credit application to see if you would be approved for any special rates? These small steps can ultimately lead them to the final sale. On a landing page, this is incredibly powerful. Take this example of my landing page checklist lead capture page. I use what's called a two-step opt-in process. Instead of showing the form fields to the visitor right away, I simply show a button that says, "Get the checklist." And then when clicked, they see a light box which contains the form fields. What I'm doing here is I'm getting the visitor to take a small action, just clicking on a button, before they take a slightly bigger action, filling out the form. This changes the dynamic of what I'm asking them to do, and once they've taken that first step, they're much more likely to follow through with the rest of the steps. Well, that brings us to the end of part 3 of this course. Up next in part 4, we'll be focusing on copywriting, which is an important skill for every conversion optimizer to have. I'll see you there.